Control what you say and begin to grow in silence. You talk a lot and may not even realize how much it's slowing you down. Every time you blurt out an opinion without thinking, make a promise you're not sure you'll keep, or blurt it out to the wrong person, you're simply wearing yourself down. The words that could help you end up making you weaker. Growing up requires silence. Anyone who has learned this knows, the less you say, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the more you grow. The Stoics discovered this more than 2,000 years ago, because silence is not a weakness. In fact, it's the simplest way to store energy and use it in the right place. I'll show you how controlling what you say can change your life, how it can help you avoid arguments, earn the respect of others, and truly grow. I'll give you 8 practical tips based on the wisdom of the Stoics that will help you talk less, do more, and show your worth without having to force yourself to do so. But first, let me tell you a story to explain it better. Andre worked in a carpentry shop. He was good at what he did, but he had a habit that only got in his way. He talked too much. He told everyone about his plans, complained about his boss's decisions, and expressed his opinion on things he didn't know very well. He thought that talking too much was a sign of intelligence, importance, and respect. Until one day, his grandfather, a simple but very wise man, appeared in the workshop. He sat in a corner and stayed there, watching for a long time. Before he left, he took Andre aside and said, "My son, good wood makes no noise when it grows." Andre laughed, not really understanding. Then his grandfather continued, "You're a dedicated young man, but you waste your energy talking too much. Every tree that grows strong does so silently. People who talk a lot are generally trying to convince themselves or others." These words stuck in Andre's mind. He realized that talking less and doing more made all the difference. He stopped talking about what he hadn't even done yet and focused on the work instead. That's when he realized, when you talk less, your actions start to speak for you. When you stop talking about what you want to do, you have more energy to actually put it into action. Silence is not weakness, but concentration, control, and change. Now I'll show you how to put this into practice in a simple and real way. How to use silence to your advantage so you don't waste energy, strengthen your mind, and build something real without having to convince anyone. Strategy 1. Control your emotions before you speak. Imagine you're standing in line at a store, glancing at your watch, already worried you might miss an appointment. Suddenly, someone behind you starts complaining loudly, saying annoying things and saying, "If you feel uncomfortable, swap seats with me." Your heart starts beating faster. Your mind is already thinking of a response in the same vein. But instead of responding, you take a deep breath, suppress the urge to retort, and decide to remain silent. As you leave, you realize that what you said wasn't what made the difference that day. It's what you wished you hadn't said. This doesn't mean avoiding discussions out of fear or insecurity. It's a conscious decision not to react impulsively and not to get carried away by unnecessary emotions. How often do fights or arguments break out in such situations simply because someone lost their temper over something trivial? A moment of anger can turn a normal day into a nightmare, because when anger takes over, people simply react without considering the consequences. It's as if someone accidentally spilled coffee on you and you spontaneously threw it back. An immediate reaction will only spread more chaos, pain, and confusion. A small problem that could have been resolved calmly turns into a major conflict. Think about the discussions you've had. How many times have you thought after an argument, "I didn't have to say that"? Because the problem is almost never what you say. The problem lies in the tone, the wrong moment, or the lack of control that dominates you without you realizing it. Seneca, a very wise philosopher, said that nothing harms our peace of mind as much as anger. And he was right. Because when anger dominates, it doesn't think, it only attacks. Talking in the heat of the moment is like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline at it. It looks like you're acting complacent, but it only makes the situation worse. The real solution is to never act rashly. It requires calm. What extinguishes anger isn't reacting more quickly. It's about not escalating the fight. You know that family group on your phone? Someone twists what you said and embarrasses you in front of everyone. That makes you want to respond immediately, doesn't it? But if you wait a little, if you take time to reflect before you react, you'll find that many conflicts resolve themselves if they aren't escalated. Your power lies in that moment of pause, that brief pause between what happened and what you want to do. The more quietly you enjoy that space, the harder it is for others to upset you. Want a simple exercise? Before you speak, pause and ask yourself, does this really have anything to do with what just happened? Or is it something I've never resolved within myself? Often the anger you feel isn't rooted in the situation itself, but in something old you never resolved. If you're still angry, write it down, but don't send it. Put it all on your phone or on paper and save it. After a while you'll read it and realize what was just anger and what was truly important. Controlling your emotions before speaking doesn't mean remaining silent forever. It means understanding that true power lies in choosing when and how you use your voice. Remember, silence is like armor that protects you from acting spontaneously, and only those who know how to control themselves are truly free. Strategy 2. Resist. Resistance isn't just about standing firm when things get tough. It's about learning to control the urge to speak when silence is the wisest choice. It's about knowing how to resist the urge to explain everything, justify your actions, or react to every provocation that comes your way. This requires not only physical strength, but also clarity of thought, patience, and willpower. Cato the Younger understood this better than anyone. In Rome, where power was achieved through grandiose speeches and public displays of force, Cato did the opposite. He knew that too much talking gave power to those who didn't deserve it. Cato was known for his integrity and discipline. He spoke only when necessary and only when he had something truly important to say. When they tried to provoke him or extract statements from him that he believed didn't need to be said, he simply didn't respond. He chose silence as everyone waited for an answer. For Cato, resistance meant refusing to give explanations to those who didn't deserve to hear them. It was about maintaining control over your words rather than delivering them impulsively. While others tried to please the public with empty speeches and endless explanations, Cato remained true to his principles without having to constantly justify himself. Now think about your own life. Imagine you're walking down the street and someone says they like your outfit. What a beautiful shirt. And instead of simply saying thank you, you feel the need to tell them where you bought it, how much it cost, why you chose that color, and whether it was on sale, all without the person asking. This is a simple example, but it occurs frequently, both in small situations and in larger moments in life. We feel the need to justify our decisions and provide details no one has asked about, as if our acceptance depends on convincing others that our actions are valid. This impulse to explain yourself occurs in many areas of life. When you start something new, you want to convince others that it's a good idea. When you decide to change a habit, you feel the need to explain why this change is important. When you make a different choice, you try to defend yourself against any criticism. But the more you try to justify yourself, the further you move away from what really matters. True progress doesn't need talk. It happens through action and by insisting on what you believe in. The more you try to convince others, the more room you give to the doubts that invade your own mind. Resisting means choosing silence when you feel the urge to justify yourself. It's about recognizing that not every criticism needs an answer, not every question demands a detailed explanation, and not every opinion should be considered. You don't have to justify your plans to those who don't understand them, nor your decisions to those who have never walked your path. The people who truly matter will understand without you having to waste energy explaining. Resistance means stopping justifying yourself to the world and instead starting to listen more to yourself. The more you try to explain what you're doing, the more power you give to those who aren't truly interested in understanding. And if someone tries to question your decisions or asks for explanations that don't make sense, think of Cato. The power of silence lies in protecting what is valuable without having to announce, explain, or defend it. You don't have to explain your vision to people who have never tried to see what you see. And if you like the content, consider becoming a member of the channel. Not only will you be helping the channel, but you'll also have access to exclusive content. Click the link in the description and become a member now. Back to content. Strategy 3. Don't talk to anyone about your weaknesses. Would you leave your front door open with a sign saying, "Come in and take what you want"? Probably not, but that's exactly what we do when we tell people our weaknesses who shouldn't know about them. Not everyone who seems to want to help actually cares. And the more you share your weaknesses with those who don't deserve to know about them, the more vulnerable you become. Consider Lucas. He's a young man who has a steady job but dreams of teaching English online. However, he encounters many obstacles. One day, feeling discouraged, he decides to approach a colleague who seems friendly but whom he barely knows. Lucas talks about his insecurities, his fear of failure, the mistakes he's made, and how demotivating they are. The colleague listens attentively to everything and seems to care. But weeks later, Lucas realizes that the same colleague used this information to talk badly about him behind his back and spread his weaknesses to other colleagues. What was once an outburst became gossip. What Lucas had shared as pain became a weapon in the hands of someone who didn't think twice before using it against him. That's how it happens. Your weaknesses are like keys that protect what matters most to you. If you give those keys to someone who doesn't know how to take care of them, you risk losing what you hold most dear. Not everyone deserves to know their weaknesses, especially those who have never proven themselves trustworthy. Confusing education with loyalty is a mistake that can have high costs. Before you trust something important, observe the person's behavior, not just the moment. Who is truly loyal to others? Who shows empathy without expecting anything in return? Trust isn't built through sympathy, but through character. Marco Aurelio, a great thinker, said that if you share a secret with someone who doesn't deserve it, it's entirely your fault. Many people forget this. It's easy to want to share how we feel with others, especially when we're going through a vulnerable phase. But not every shoulder that offers support is actually willing to help. Want to know if someone is trustworthy? Start with something small. Share something unimportant and see what happens. When the story comes back to you from someone else's mouth, you already know what kind of person you're dealing with. But the problem isn't just the betrayal of others, but also the impact it has on you. The more you reveal your weaknesses, the more insecure you become. And the more insecure you become, the harder it becomes to believe in your own strength. Remember, protecting your weaknesses doesn't mean being aloof or cold. It means being wise. It means understanding that silence doesn't limit you, it protects you. When you need to vent, choose the person carefully. Turning to the wrong person is like pouring water into a leaky well. It won't bring you relief, it will only make you emptier. True strength lies not in telling everyone everything, but in knowing when and to whom to open your heart. It's not about living alone, but about understanding that not everyone deserves to know what hurts you. Trust isn't measured by the number of words, but by what the person does with what you've shared. And if someone doesn't deserve your silence, they don't deserve your truth either. Remember, not every truth needs to be told, and not every pain needs to be shared. Strategy 4. Listen more, talk less. The problem is that in many conversations, no one is really listening. People are simply waiting for their turn to speak. They already have answers in their heads before they even understand what the other person is saying. That's not listening. It's just automatic reaction. And those who react without thinking learn nothing. True listening means paying attention to what's happening. It's about understanding more than just the words. It means paying attention to the tone of voice, the gestures, and even what isn't said. When you learn to truly listen, you become wiser, more intelligent, and gain more respect. Imagine an everyday situation, such as a work meeting. There's always someone interrupting others, talking incessantly, trying to appear important. What happens? They talk so much that no one wants to listen anymore, and their words ultimately lose their value. Now think of someone who listens first in a meeting. Observe, think a little, and only speak when you really have something important to say. This person will always be listened to more because silence creates an expectation. Their words have more power when they are not wasted. Epictetus, a great philosopher, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason." He was right, because true knowledge comes from observation, not from hasty talk. When you talk less, you learn more. And when you learn more, you grow more. Want to see an example of this? Think of someone trying to sell something. Most people immediately start talking and try to convince the customer with a pre-written speech. But the smart salesperson does it differently. They listen first, ask what the customer needs, understand the problem, and only then offer the solution. This salesperson understands that listening is like opening a map before beginning a journey. Speaking without listening first is stumbling in the dark. Learning to listen is like sharpening a tool. The more you practice, the better you become. Because those who truly listen notice things others don't, understand the details, and see beyond the obvious. And most importantly, those who listen more and speak less learn to control their ego. The need to always be right is the reason most people waste energy proving what they already know. Listening is a rare skill, and that's why those who know how to listen stand out. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, those who know how to listen are essential. So try a simple test the next time you're in a conversation. Observe more, listen more, and talk less. You'll find that the less you say, the more important your words become. Remember, silence transforms ordinary words into something truly audible. Strategy 5. Harness the power of silence. Few tools have as much influence on our minds and our well-being as silence. However, learning to use it effectively isn't just about staying still. It's not about remaining silent out of fear, submission, or simply having no opinion. The true power of silence lies in using it as a space for deep reflection and inner empowerment. Unlike a meaningless pause, silence can be a true personal sanctuary, a place where you can reconnect with your essence, away from distractions and external pressures. In silence, you can hear your own voice and what your mind truly needs to express. Imagine silence as an empty space where there is no confusion, where the only sound is the rhythm of your own thoughts, a place where ideas organize and feelings settle. There is no rush, no judgment, simply space to be. When you choose to silence yourself, the goal is not to impress others or manipulate the situation to gain an advantage. Silence is a choice for personal empowerment. It is a way to remain steadfast in the face of external storms and to hear more clearly what is truly going on in your heart and mind. In silence, ideas mature and take shape. Fears that seemed huge lose their power, and goals that were previously nebulous begin to become clearer and more attainable. For example, if you decide to avoid an unnecessary argument, the true power of silence isn't staying silent to appear superior or to avoid confrontation. True power lies in recognizing that this argument or momentary stress isn't worth your time or energy. By remaining quiet, you protect your peace, focus, and mental calm. You choose where to focus your attention, and in a noisy, busy world, this choice is an act of resistance. Silence, therefore, acts as a shield, protecting what matters most, your inner peace. Now think about the importance of listening without rushing. We are often tempted to react immediately, to justify our words, or to try to explain everything we think. However, by allowing yourself not to react immediately, you create space for silence to reveal what is truly important. This could be a revelation. You begin to realize that you don't have to say everything on your mind, but that your words can be more powerful when used more consciously and intentionally. As the philosopher Seneca said, "Silence is a sacred space." Those who learn to harness it can access answers and insights that the noise of everyday life could never reveal. Now let's apply this practically. When faced with a challenge or a problem, resist the temptation to react or act immediately. Allow yourself a moment of silence. Not to plan a perfect response, but simply to sense what you really want to communicate, or even to question whether it's necessary to say anything. In this brief pause, in this moment of reflection, the true power of silence is revealed. It's not a strategy to appear wise or superior, but an opportunity to strengthen yourself internally, to mature your ideas, and to prepare yourself to make clearer and wiser decisions. So, silence isn't empty, as we often think. It's a space filled with presence. It's full of clarity and purpose, offering us the chance to grow and strengthen ourselves without the rush and external pressure that constantly requires rapid reactions. When you learn to consciously use silence, you enter a state of greater presence and authenticity. As a result, you develop a calmer, more centered mind and are better able to deal with adversity in a more balanced and effective way. But there's something important to understand. If you've been trying to step out of your comfort zone and learn more for a long time but still haven't succeeded, there may be something you're not aware of. I know what it could be. It's fear. Fear is like a snake that comes silently and influences you without you noticing. It makes you feel bad for days, months, and even years. Living like this is like being constantly sick. But I know a solution. Stoic philosophers and modern psychology have a way to eliminate this. I myself managed to cure myself of this fear. I made a video explaining how to get rid of this evil, and it's in the first comment. Click the link in the first comment and begin healing this feeling of fear. Strategy 6. Protect your plans. How many times have you had an incredible idea, and when you told someone about it, did you feel your energy drain away? Sometimes the person doesn't even have to say anything. All it takes is a strange look, a change of subject, or a cold, cool good luck, and you start to doubt yourself. It's like weakening your own dream by talking about something that's still developing. Your plans are like newly planted seeds, too delicate to face the world at first. It's like trying to plant a seed in the middle of the road. Any footstep, wind, or storm could cause it to be lost before it grows. Want to see an example? Imagine a woman named Clara. She dreams of opening a cake shop, something she loves. Clara is excited and shares the idea with friends, colleagues, and family, hoping for help and advice. But every time she shares her plans, someone comes up with a different suggestion. A friend says, "Cakes are commonplace. What makes money these days are sophisticated cakes." Clara begins to think about changing her focus. Then another relative says, "What everyone wants now are gourmet brigadeiros." And she begins to think about it too. Then someone else says, "Healthy sweets are trendy these days. We should bake healthy cakes." Clara, who tries to please everyone, changes her mind again. The result? Clara spends months changing her plan, trying to follow the opinions of people who often don't even know what really works in the market or don't understand what she wants to do. In the end, she wastes her energy and her ideas become unfocused without truly growing. And all this because she shared her plans too early and allowed other people's opinions to interfere with something that was still in development. And so many plans die before they become reality, not from a lack of skill or effort, but from being exposed to too much too soon. When you talk about something that's still in its infancy, you allow other people to express their opinions, judge, and even impose their own insecurities on what you're trying to do. Marcus Aurelius, a great thinker, wrote, "Do things without expecting recognition. In other words, do it first and talk later." Those who talk too much before they act end up wasting energy trying to convince others of something they themselves haven't yet proven. Protecting your plans doesn't mean hiding what you want to do, but rather letting them grow in silence, protected from opinions and criticism that could weaken them. Because not everyone who hears your plans supports you. Advice often comes from those who have never attempted what you want to achieve. So be smart. Keep what's important to you. Work in silence, because it's in silence that things truly grow. And when you finally show what you've done, let it go, because your work speaks for itself. The action will have been so powerful that words will be unnecessary. The truth is simple. What is real does not need to be announced. It just needs to be done. Strategy 7. Say less than you think. Not everything that comes to mind needs to be said. Controlling what you say is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. Every word you speak is energy you expend, and that energy can be much more useful if you take practical action. Think about how many times you have answered without thinking, driven by anger or pride, and then spent hours wondering why you didn't keep quiet. Words once spoken never return. Therefore, learning to remain silent can be your greatest protection. Seneca, a great Stoic philosopher, said, "We often regret what we say, but rarely what we keep silent about." And that's absolutely true. When you speak without thinking, you become vulnerable, but when you shut up and think, you become stronger. Sometimes all we need is 2 extra seconds of silence. Anger and pride make our tongues run faster than we think. Before you answer, take a deep breath, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is it worth talking right now? Will this help or just make the situation worse? If the answer is no, it's better to remain silent. Silence is one of the best defenses you can use, and when it comes to your plans, keep them to yourself. Not everything needs to be shared. Have you ever met someone who keeps saying they're going to change their life, but nothing changes? Like that colleague who promises every Monday to go on a diet or quit their job, but the next week says the same thing and does nothing. Talking creates the feeling that we've already done something, but in reality we've done nothing. Marcus Aurelius said, "Let your actions speak for themselves." And he was right. Talking about what you want to do is like wasting gas and staying in the same place. What really matters are actions, not words. Another important point is to avoid arguments that lead nowhere. The truth is, you'll never convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced. The more you insist, the more energy you lose. It's like trying to dry the floor with the faucet running. Often the best argument is not to insist, because while the other person wastes words, you save energy. Remember, those who talk too much end up giving themselves away without even realizing it. In important conversations like job interviews or work meetings, those who speak less are usually heard more. Because silence shows that you think before you act. It shows that you know the difference between speaking because it's necessary and speaking out of vanity. These days, everyone wants to have the last word, talk about everything, and give their opinion on everything. But that's not wisdom. Wisdom is knowing when to keep your mouth shut. It's understanding that the value of your voice increases when you learn to use it purposefully. Talking less doesn't mean being afraid to express yourself. It means understanding that what matters isn't the volume of your voice, but what you say and how you say it. It means knowing that true respect doesn't come from insisting, but from knowing how to listen and act. If you want to be more respected, calmer and more strategic, talk less than you think. Use silence as a filter, because what's truly worth saying will always be said at the right time. Strategy 8. Turn down the noise inside you. To control what you say, you must learn to reduce the noise in your head, because before a word leaves your mouth, it is influenced by the thoughts you are entertaining. And if those thoughts are confusing, rushed, or negative, they will eventually leak out. Imagine a dam full of cracks. If the pressure is constant and there's no control, the water will find a way to escape. The same applies to your thoughts. When you accumulate silent criticism, frustration, and repetitive judgments, these thoughts leak out in the form of impulsive and damaging words. Inner noise consists of unnecessary and repetitive thoughts, automatic judgments, and worries that you let run wild. It's like having a radio constantly on, tuned to a bad station, playing the same annoying song over and over again. And when this inner noise builds up, it's impossible to maintain the silence you wish to convey to the world. The Stoics understood that true peace comes not only from controlling what you say, but also what you think. What you say is merely a reflection of what you nurture within yourself. When you get used to judging everything you see, silently criticizing the actions of others, and mentally complaining about every little mistake, you only accumulate more noise. And that noise turns into words that eventually come out, even though you don't want to say them. Seneca said that nothing is more important to a person than being able to control their own mind. Want a practical example? Think about the last time you complained about something you couldn't change. That complaint didn't start with words. but with a repetitive thought that you let grow until it came out of your mouth. And what did that solve? Nothing. It only made the noise louder. Start noticing when your mind is filled with criticism, complaints, or judgment. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Or is it just noise? If it doesn't bring clarity, peace, or growth, let it go. True control over what you say begins with eliminating the inner noise. Because what you think is what you become. And what you become is what you express. When you learn to quiet your mind, external silence becomes natural. And this silence is not empty. It is full of presence, clarity, and purpose. Remember that controlling what you say begins with silencing that which shouldn't even be thought.